Coming up on Network Africa. Niger's junta closes country's airspace even as Mali and Burkina Faso plan on sending delegations. Italy asks regional bloc ECOWAS to give more time to Niger junta. Plus, jail Senegal opposition leader Ousmane Sonko admitted to hospital after hunger strike protest in prison. Welcome everyone to Network Africa. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. Niger's coup leaders have closed the country's airspace until further notice, citing the threat of military intervention from their neighbors. Flight tracking website Flat Radar 24 shows that there are currently no aircraft in Niger's skies. The West African group of countries, ECOWAS, had earlier warned it will use force if President Mohamed Bazoum was not reinstated by Sunday. It's unclear now what ECOWAS would do next, especially as the deadline has expired. However, a junta spokesperson says the armed forces are ready to defend the country. Meanwhile, on Sunday, thousands of supporters of the coup leaders flocked to the stadium in the capital, appearing undaunted by the threat of military intervention. On Niamey streets, there were also sporadic displays of support, but no signs of opposition to the junta, which has said it will not cave in to external pressure to stand down following the July 26 power grab. Rippling cheers greeted every sentence of a speech read by a representative of the new army-led administration to the packed crowd at the stadium, who stressed the junta's determination to stay in power, at least for now. In the meantime, Mali says it'll send a joint delegation with Burkina Faso to Niger to express their solidarity for the country. The announcement comes a day after the generals who seized power defied the ultimatum to reinstate the elected president, Mohamed Bazoum. Despite the ultimatum, it appears members of the regional grouping, ECOWAS, are divided on whether to take military action. Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire are among those insisting that President Mohamed Bazoum must be reinstated. But the military governments in Mali and Burkina Faso have said that they would side with the coup leaders if they were attacked. As a result, France has suspended all development aid and budget support to Burkina Faso. Still on Niger, Italy is asking for more time given to the coup leaders. The foreign ministry has called on ECOWAS to extend the deadline issued. According to Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani, the only way is a diplomatic one. As a result of the country shutting down its airspace, international flights have been diverted or had to return to their country of origin as a result of this. The army said it believes reparations to invade Niger had begun in two African countries, but gave no evidence, and ECOWAS is yet to make a statement on its next move since the deadline expired. Elsewhere, Italian and United States troops based in Niger have been extracted from Niamey and landed in Rome early on Sunday. In total, 75 soldiers landed in Pratica de Mer Airport, 65 Italians and 10 from the United States, which leaves a further 254 still in Niger to be withdrawn this week. The mixed troops are part of the bilateral support mission in the Republic of Niger, a training mission set up in 2018 to increase capabilities aimed at combating the phenomenon of illegal trafficking and security threats as part of a joint effort by the European Union and the United States to make the area more stable. Well, despite the looming military intervention in Niger, citizens of the country remain unfazed by the ECOWAS ultimatum. Women, children and old people in Niamey took over roundabouts and road intersections on the way to the presidential palace on Saturday night into Sunday morning in support of the military and in defiance of international calls to reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum. They said ECOWAS forces would have to drive over their bodies to get to the presidential palace, blasting pro-military coup tunes and tooting vuvuzelas. Over 100 people set up a picket near an airbase in the capital, pledging to offer non-violent resistance in support of the new military administration. Well, it's almost 2 weeks since the military took over power in Niger, and the threat of regional war dangles in the air. Our next report by our foreign affairs correspondent, Amarachi Ubani, highlights development in and around the country since the coup.
It has been nearly 2 weeks since a section of the Niger army toppled the government of Mohamed Bazoum and installed General Abdurrahman Tichani as the country's new military leader. But it is a development that has spurred regional power ECOWAS to move against it. Hours after the junta announced its takeover, ECOWAS chair and Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu, condemned the coup and called on the coup plotters to immediately release the democratically elected president. The coup would be the 7th on the continent, the 4th in West Africa, and the closest to Nigeria. A week later, ECOWAS convened an extraordinary meeting in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, where they not only again condemned the coup, but also announced sanctions on Niger Republic. Among the sanctions itemized in ECOWAS communique were the closure of all air and land borders against Niger, the imposition of a no-fly zone over the country, freezing of Niger's accounts in the West African Economic Union, as well as in regional banks, and an ultimatum to the junta to reinstate Mohamed Bazoum as president. Bazoum, still under close surveillance by the junta, shared ECOWAS' decision, calling on the regional power as well as other foreign powers to ensure his reinstatement. ECOWAS also began considering military intervention in Niger. ECOWAS' 7-day ultimatum expires soon, and there's been no word on what happens next. Security consultant Dr. Luasheyi Adetayo says ECOWAS options are now limited.
When you are responding to coup d'etat or to unconstitutional government in a country, there are 4 ways or 4 approaches to this. One is for you to make a very hard, rejection. Another one is a soft rejection. The third one is soft acceptance. And the last one is hard acceptance.
But other analysts call for caution. The Nigerian junta last week condemned ECOWAS sanctions as inhumane, and the Mali and Burkina Faso juntas say any military intervention by ECOWAS will be seen as a declaration of war.
I thought we should be more circumspect in deciding military actions, particularly given the fact that in the last 10 or so years, our own military have had issues trying to resolve the insecurity in Nigeria, particularly in the northeast. And as of today, the Nigerian military, I think it's in 32 out of the 36 states. So already our military is overstretched.
Later in the week, on the streets of the Nigerian capital, Niamey, supporters of the junta protested ECOWAS sanctions, celebrated the evacuation of foreign nationals from the country, and the 63rd anniversary of Niger's independence from France. The self-declared new leader of Niger says the junta will not bow to pressure to reinstate ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. General Abdurrahman Tichani later said Niger is on a transitional path to democratic elections. In his statewide televised address, he said they'd always been humble enough to listen to all parties concerned and open to dialogue, so that once everyone's emotions have subsided, they can work together to create the conditions for a peaceful transition, leading in a short and reasonable time to general elections. So ideally, it does appear the junta has a plan to restore civilian rule. Whether it will include Mohamed Bazoum is yet to be decided. The onus now is on ECOWAS to explore more options to convince the junta out of power, or unilaterally prepare for war, not only with Niger, but with Mali and Burkina Faso, which have declared support and allegiance to each other. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
Joining us now is security analyst Temitope Olodo. He joins us from London. Glad to have you on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with your thoughts on the alliance we're seeing from the military governments in Mali and, of course, Burkina Faso. Both countries plan on sending their delegation to Niger in the wake of the expiration of the ECOWAS deadline.
I'm not surprised. They themselves have been taken over by a military coup. So, of course, that's what they will do. And I wasn't expecting anything different. I think it's important for our viewers to understand that coup is not a democratic way of changing government. There is an opportunity to go to the ballot. And if indeed this coup was meant to be legitimate, within 1 week of them taking over, they could easily have put in an interior government made up of civilians, to usher in a new timetable for a peaceful civilian election. They've not done that. They just wanted to do what they want to do and not listen to other people. And I think that will lead to their downfall. There is no doubt that they cannot face the might of ECOWAS, which is supported by the United Nations. Let's be clear. The big nations of the world are in support of Nigeria and its co-colleagues, or the Nigerian government and other countries that are actually looking at making sure that military coup becomes an issue of the past in Africa, or West Africa. Put it that way.
Yes, and as we have just reported, it does seem that, we don't know when, but the military government now in Niger is, honest about eventually bringing in a civilian government. We just don't know when that will take place. How much longer do you think ECOWAS should give the Nigerian government in, resolving this issue with, removing the former President Bazoum?
There's no doubt that there are conversations going on behind the scene that we're not privileged to, because we're not head of states or leaders of the world. There is conversation that is going on. As far as Niger does not make a fatal mistake of massing troops or moving troops, if there is any indication over the satellite imageries showing that they are either moving moving weapons of any sort or military formations towards the Nigerian border, I can reassure them and everyone that is watching us right now that the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Tinubu, will not be left with no other option to call on the service chief, to make the first strike. And that will be justified under international law. If they are moving towards our border, either in Katsina or our border in Sokoto, or the others. So there's no doubt about that. And there's no doubt that they do not have the military might. And I don't want people to think because of the previous security challenges we have in Nigeria, because of that Nigeria military is weak, or that we could be stepped upon by any other country. We are a big nation, a great nation, great people. And of course, we are not looking for trouble. We're only just saying allow democratic practice to continue in that country, even if you feel that there is a living cost problem that's affecting every country in the world. If you are insisting on that, then countries like Nigeria and all the other countries should also be taken over by coup plotters. We don't want that. If there are situations, they should use their parliament and use democratic means to kick out, a legitimate government that be put in place.
Right. So how easy will that be? Well, we understand what the ground troops can do because of the various borders we share with Niger Republic. But now that Niger has closed its airspace, not only are international flights affected, but what can the Nigerian Air Force or other units, Air Force units of other armies do to go ahead with possible military intervention with the airspace closed already?
Closing the airspace does not stop missiles from landing in their country. Let's be very clear about that. Missiles can be sent from the Atlantic Ocean, from any of those places. There is no intention. Nobody would, send Air Force there without neutralizing their air defense system. And we know that was what happened in Iraq. That was what happened with Mali, with Libya, I mean. They just sent in some cruise missiles with the help of the Americans, to neutralize one or two infrastructures, just to show them that they mean business. And all these guys will go hiding under their little places that they've created. I am quite sure that it will not lead. There is possibility that we're not going to go down that way. The minute the ECOWAS will not back down, they themselves might not back down, but they might be looking for a third avenue to resolve this issue, which is if they come out and say, oh, there's going to be a handover to a civilian interim government within the next 2-3 weeks or something like that. And then you see a lot of countries coming out to say, ECOWAS, back down, either handing over to civilian or a joint civilian military body that would organize an election, then that is fine. But if they do not come up with such a solution within the next 72 hours, then please be reassured that Nigerians and other countries in ECOWAS, our citizens should be reassured that one way or the other, these guys will be sent packing. Right.
Security expert Temitope Olodo, thank you so much for your time today on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
And still ahead on Network Africa. In spite of a riveting football match, the Super Falcons of Nigeria fall out of the 2023 Women's World Cup following a 4-2 penalty loss to England. Do join us again for more details. Welcome back. Senegal's jailed opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, who has been on hunger strike in prison to protest against his criminal charges, has been admitted to hospital. On Sunday evening, his party sent out a press statement saying that he had been admitted for emergency care and is holding the authorities responsible for his condition. The leader of the now-dissolved PASTEF party was detained last week and charged with calling for insurrection, conspiracy against the state, among other crimes. He began his hunger strike soon after. Meanwhile, Mr. Sonko's lawyer, Juan Branco, is said to have been arrested by police after several days of cat-and-mouse games with the authorities. This was confirmed by the Senegalese Interior Minister, who said that the Franco-Spanish lawyer is in the hands of the elite police unit. Several local reports say that Branco was arrested as he was sneaking out of Senegal towards Mauritania. Mr. Branco has made a name for himself in Senegal by taking part in the defense of Ousmane Sonko, an opponent engaged since 2021 in a tug-of-war with the authorities and the judiciary. For over 2 years, the confrontation has given rise to several episodes of deadly violence. Elsewhere now, 5 Ugandan Marine officers who were on a mission to recover bodies from last week's accident in Lake Victoria have also been rescued after their rescue boat capsized and they needed saving themselves on Sunday. Police say they had only recovered 5 bodies, all women, from last Tuesday's mishap involving an overloaded boat believed to have been carrying 34 people. At least 20 people died and 9 people were rescued, with others reported as missing. According to officials, Sunday's incident underscores the unpredictable nature of the lake and the challenging conditions marine officers face while executing their duties. In the meantime, investigation into the accident is ongoing and the search for bodies of the people who drowned is also on. Tunisian authorities say at least 14 migrants have died in different shipwrecks in the Mediterranean over the last 2 days. More than 50 are missing after the latest accident in which a boat sank off the coast. All those on board were from sub-Saharan Africa. Tunisia is a major gateway for regular migrants from other parts of the continent attempting perilous voyages to Europe. The Tunisian Interior Minister says the Coast Guard has recovered more than 900 bodies of drowned migrants so far this year. An overwhelming majority has approved the changes to the constitution of the Central African Republic with over 95% of the vote. This is according to the committee in charge of overseeing the referendum. The proposed law abolishes the presidential 2-term limit and extends the term in office from 5 to 7 years. It also bans politicians with dual citizenship from running for president. Although nearly 2 million people registered to vote, opposition parties and some civil society groups boycotted the vote, saying that the amended law was designed to keep President Faustin Touadéra in power for life. They said the referendum lacked transparency and there was limited time given to debate its provisions. A senior Ethiopian official is accusing militiamen in the Amhara region of seeking to overthrow the regional and federal governments following days of fighting that led to the authorities to declare a state of emergency. Clashes between Fano militiamen and Ethiopian National Defense Force continued over the weekend. Residents of Gondar, Amhara's second biggest city, said that heavy weapons fire that began on Sunday could be heard into Monday morning. The conflict has quickly become Ethiopia's most serious security crisis since a 2-year civil war in Tigray region, which neighbors Amhara, ended in November. Tamsjan Tirune, Director General of Ethiopia's National Intelligence Service, who was appointed to oversee enforcement of the state of emergency, acknowledged that militia fighters had taken some towns and districts. The state of emergency declaration gives the security services the power to impose curfews, restrict movement, ban the carrying of guns and sharp objects, ban public gatherings, and make arrests and conduct searches without warrants. Well, the European champions England beat Nigeria 4-2 on penalties to reach the quarterfinals of the Women's World Cup after their last 16th tie finished 0-0 at the end of extra time earlier today. The 9-time African champions were the better side throughout and were unlucky not to go ahead when they saw 2 efforts hit the crossbar. Chloe Kelly scored the winning kick in the shootout to take the European champions, who had Lauren James sent off in normal time, through to a last 8 tie against Colombia or Jamaica. The girls, however, have shown in this World Cup that they have the game to challenge anybody. Have you been throwing your cans away? Well, you might just be discarding something that's seen as valuable, at least for this Nigerian artist who says that he loves to explore eco-friendly products and is willing to pay to get those items. As an environmental artist, Chibuike Ifedilichukwu creates beautiful works of art by weaving discarded aluminum beverage cans into portraits.
Growing up with his grandmother, Nigerian artist Chibuike Ifedilichukwu would weave raffia strings into sleeping mats. Then he went to university and became more conscious of the environment and started using the same weaving technique but with a different medium, beverage cans. Aluminium is one of the most environmentally friendly metals because of its sustainability and capacity to be infinitely recycled. However, they come with their own eco price if not properly discarded or upcycled in friendly ways.
From industrial activity to individual human activities, waste are being generated on daily basis and discarded with little or no thought the effect it has on the ecosystem, our environment. So I choose the path of collecting this waste and adding value to them, which I called upcycling.
Ifedilichukwu starts by cutting up beverage cans that he already picked up and disinfected, then cuts them into desired inches depending on what he wants to work on. He then weaves a plain canvas first with the shiny part of the beverage can before filling it in with the colored part to bring out his desired pattern or portrait. A piece of his art can take from 200 to 1,000 beverage cans depending on the size. Ifedilichukwu has sold several dozens of his pieces, which go for as high as $1,000 because of their lifespan and durability.
The work is a lifetime piece because one is produced with a metal, aluminium, which has a long lifespan, and that of plastic, which we know that it has a duration of close to 100 to 200 years to decay.
The 37-year-old says he sometimes pays people a token to keep their beverage cans for him or scavenge for them. But when he scavenges himself, People sometimes call him a madman.
Basically, you know, when you are in a waste bin to collect waste, you will face the challenges of people addressing you like he doesn't know what he's doing, or they will see you as a somebody, as a madman, for them, not for me, because I know what I'm doing.
So far, he's done over 30 group exhibitions, won several awards on saving the environment, and will be exhibiting in London later this year.
Certainly, he's not mad, he's just creative. Well, that's the program today. I'm Joke Rogers. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.